Hey guys, and welcome to the channel. If you're new to the channel, do remember to hit that subscribe button for more content like this. And of course, if you're new or old, do hit that like button as well. And if you're watching on a podcast platform or listening on a podcast platform, do leave a rating or review if you do like this video. Let's get into this. This is a preview. Rafael Nadal versus Carlos Alcaraz. I mean, it is once again the master versus the apprentice, or maybe it's not. Maybe it's just the young gun coming through, about to overtake the master. Maybe the young Padawan's going to become the master. Who knows? Bit of a Jedi reference there and a Star Wars reference there for you Star Wars fans. Now, 2-0 is the head-to-head, or 2-love is the head-to-head record between Nadal and Alcaraz. Of course, we always talk about the age difference and the parallels, considering that Alcaraz won Miami at a very similar age to when Nadal won Miami. And then after winning Miami, he's made his top 10 debut. And that's exactly what Nadal did as well when he won Miami at 18 years of age. He will be actually turning 19. And quite nicely, it'll be his 19th birthday when he does head off against Rafael Nadal tomorrow in Madrid. Now, it's the quarterfinals. And this is worthy, let's be honest, of a final, a semi-final, of potentially even a Grand Slam. Alcaraz, I know it hasn't gone that deep yet in a Grand Slam, but you just feel like it's a matter of time. Now, we're going to break down tactically how it might go, the key battles there, and also go a little bit into, I guess, their route to this current spot of the quarterfinals as well. And I'll give you a little bit of insight, especially into Nadal as well, into how he's played. I did live watch on commentary on the GTL channel for Nadal versus Goffin, and yeah, it was a dramatic and very exciting match, no doubt. But yeah, some interesting takeaways from that, I think. And I don't think that level will be good enough against Alcaraz, but I can imagine his level will definitely be higher. You would imagine. We just never know. Of course, he's been out for about 6 weeks with that cracked rib injury as well. So let's get into, of course, their route first, and then we can talk about it from a tactical standpoint. So first of all, Alcaraz, he played Barcelona and then had a little bit of a break, and I think rightly so, considering he won it. And then he just looked all strapped up, and he just thought, look, let's not continue to keep on playing like he's going to get injured or have a long-term injury. And they obviously want him to peak at Roland Garros. A lot of people are saying that he is in the top 3 favorites in a lot of people's books. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. Of course, we are going to be doing our French Open or Roland Garros power rankings after the Madrid Open for WTA and ATP. So do keep an eye out for that as well as an FYI. So Alcaraz, first of all, played Basilashvili, who is a powerhouse, to say the least. I mean, absolutely crunches the ground strokes, and they played under a closed roof as well, but got it done 6-3, 7-5. An interesting match. I mean, Alcaraz, I think, had some issues at times, had to save some break points as well, so saved 2 out of the 5 in that match. First serve percentage around 65%, and first serve points won only 66%. Pretty low. On second serve, 58%, which I think Basilashvili would be very disappointed about. But returning wise, we know that that's probably the more natural facet for Alcaraz out of the serve and return, to be honest. And in terms of the serving, yes, it's improved on the clay, of course. He's not going to win as many free points. He's not as quick. He won't be able to kind of blast the serve away and hope that if it's not in the corner, he might get a lot of free points. It's not the case on the clay generally. And yes, it's a slightly quicker surface in Madrid in terms of in relation to other clay courts, but it's still a slow court, right? It's still a clay court. So yeah, good win there. But Philly, it can be dangerous. I mean, I think for me, yeah, he can be dangerous, but anyway, not to be. And then Alcaraz against Nori, who I think was actually fighting a little bit of illness, if I'm not mistaken. This time, first serve percentage at 70%, 71% of first serve points won. Second serve points won at 44%, which is decent. But I had to save 7 out of 9 break points. Cam Nori saved only 2 out of 7. That was the big difference. So actually, Cam Nori opened up more break point opportunities than Alcaraz. He had to win in 3 sets as well. Ended up winning 6-4, 6-7, 6-3, and he did just play only a few hours ago. So it'll be interesting to see how he recovers from that. I mean, I know he will be 19 tomorrow. It'll be his birthday. He'll be pumped. He's playing against, his idol, I guess, growing up, and someone that he hits with a lot and someone he respects, and he'll try and rise to the challenge and also try and finally get that win over him, considering that he's lost the 2 encounters they have played in. That Indian Wells encounter, I mean, was crazy. It was 3 sets, and the windy conditions were just extreme, and I don't think we saw anywhere near the type of level of tennis we could potentially see tomorrow, which I'm very excited about. So hopefully we do get that. And then in terms of the Alcaraz game generally, I think for me Nori's always going to be a pretty good matchup, but Nori doing really well, and I'm quite pleased and happy with how he does fight Cam Nori. And I mean, I don't think he's ever going to win a Grand Slam personally, but who knows? He could make a semi, he could make a final even. And I think that's pretty good going. So we'll see. Anyways, back onto Alcaraz. So yeah, good couple of wins there, very solid. Nadal's had an easier route to be. To be fair, I think obviously Kecmanovic is in form, no doubt, and beat him in straight sets, and that was a pretty good victory. I know, look, Kecmanovic, you might think, oh, that's not a great play. He's been in really good form. He really has been. And I thought that was a very, very good win. A breadstick and a tiebreaker. Nadal got through it. Now, the match, which I think is the most interesting out of the 2, of course, is that David Goffin win. And it was almost a loss. It really was. He was 6-3 up. And I thought in the first set he played some good tennis. And yes, it took him time to warm into it. But then eventually he just started to dictate proceedings. And as soon as he dictated proceedings, it was very hard for Goffin to get a foothold in the match. I mean, just hitting with a lot of depth, especially on the ground strokes. Well, only on the ground strokes. And the forehand just hitting through the court. The power was there, ramped it up. And the backhand was firing. And as soon as the backhand, especially the backhand down the line, is firing, you just feel like Nadal's in a good place. And he did look good. Not pretty good. I thought he looked good. I don't think he looked amazing, but I thought he looked good. Solid kind of form at that point. Took the first set and you're thinking, okay, great. And kind of halfway through the second set, still playing pretty well. And then out of nowhere, the level just dropped. And he was 5-3 up Nadal. He had a match point on Goffin's serve. Completely blew it. I mean, really, really bizarre. Absolutely bizarre scenario. Like, he lost that point and you just think, okay, fine, fair enough, it was on Goffin's serve. But then he burns the one on his own service game, and you just think, what? And it's a really conservative point, and I was just disappointed. I was really, really disappointed with how he played it. And then after that, so imagine he was 5-3 up, he lost 4 games in a row because Goffin then broke him at 6-5 up. Nadal serving to stay in the set and didn't manage to do it. So it got broken, and it was just crazy. It was absolutely crazy. I mean, I was watching it and just thinking, what am I watching? Like, what am I watching? How has Nadal suddenly capitulated like this? This isn't the Nadal we're used to seeing. He's normally very clinical, and in the big moments, he'll get it done. And I was more surprised with the fact that he was playing pretty well up until that point, and then capitulated and didn't manage to be clinical and finish it off, than if he were to maybe not has played as well. Say, went to 3 sets, but then was clinical in the third set, got an early break or something, and then went on to win. I would have said, okay, you know what, that's fine because he's still, had time out, and that's okay. But look, okay, in the big moments, in the big points, he was able to grind it out. Now, I think the biggest issue for me is the fact that he didn't until the end, of course. But yeah, anyway, burnt those 2 match points. Then in the third set, it was a tight encounter. I mean, David Goffin played some really, really good tennis. I thought he served exceptionally into corners, dragged Nadal out, and just having a look at his numbers here, actually. I mean, 73% of first serves in. That's really high. And then 67% of first serve points won, which I think is pretty solid. I mean, it's not unbelievable, but it's pretty darn good considering he's facing one of the best returners ever. I think Djokovic will be the best, but Nadal in the top 3 of all time for me. And second serve points won 45%, which is pretty good. Saved 8 out of 11 break points, Goffin. So Nadal did have a lot of break points. I mean, I know he had break points Yeah, he had a lot of break points, and especially in that third set, didn't take them as well. And you're just thinking, okay, you've just burnt the 2 match points on the break points. Yes, Goffin was pretty good. Managed to, I think he was, I'm pretty sure he was love 40 down in one of the service games and he managed to hold. And I was just thinking, what is Nadal doing here? And a couple of errors from Nadal. Okay, fine, good serve out wide. Then Goffin on the front foot with the forehand. I get that. Okay, well played. But Nadal just a couple more unforced errors than maybe we're used to seeing, especially on the forehand, miscuing it at times long, and yeah, going into the net. Not as many returns made as we would expect from Nadal as well. So it was a rusty performance, I think. I mean, yes, there were definitely, as I said, like the period of that first kind of set and a half. I thought, okay, he's playing quite well. I didn't think he was playing incredible, and yeah, there were some of those unforced errors still, but they definitely, I felt, seeped through more at 5-3 up in that second set onwards, and then in the third set at times as well. But yeah, Goffin, he actually upped the power on the ground strokes. There was a stat, the MBH on both sides in the second set. And I think that did definitely pin Nadal back. I think he wasn't having all his own way, and I think in those big moments, and especially when it's 5-3 up, I just felt like he was almost going through the motions and was happy to just be conservative and be tentative and say, okay, well, I'm just going to make balls and then you're going to make a mistake. And Goffin wasn't making mistakes in those moments. He was taking them, he was taking them with both hands, and then he was taking the opportunity and he was making sure that he held. And that was really impressive to me. Um, yeah, like he's a talented player, and of course won a tournament recently. David Goffin as well. Great to see him back in form, and he seems to be a troublesome matchup for Nadal. They've now got a 5-2 head to head, but David Goffin, yeah, the game he's got and the way he's playing at the moment, I think he's dangerous. I think he's really dangerous. The first serve was really good, as I said. He's got good touch and feel as well. The drop shot didn't always work. Nadal chased down a lot of them, but sometimes he finished off with the next point, or Nadal would go into the net with a dink, or he would then hit a return, kind of drop shot winner himself. But Goffin, yeah, I think especially with the forehand, the in-to-in, forehand, in-to-out forehand, I thought he utilized really well. And everyone knows the biggest tactic to try and utilize against Nadal is to try and go into-out with the forehand, flat and low at an angle, to then have Nadal have to kind of whip the forehand almost that kind of ankle height and on the stretch. And he doesn't like hitting that because he has to wind it back. And it takes time, obviously, to wind it back. So, yeah, he utilized it well at times, I thought. And yeah, it was just a good performance from David Goffin. He ended up having 3 match points in the tiebreaker, as Nadal, I think, or 4 actually. I think David Goffin had 4 in the tiebreaker. Nadal had 3, and then I think at the 4th time of asking, he took it. But 11-9 in the tiebreaker, it was really topsy-turvy, to say the least. Some really tight points. Nadal in the end, though, winning actually because Goffin went for an in-to-in forehand on the drive and just missed it. Just missed it. It was an error in the end that gave him the win. And yeah, tight win. And he will not be able to play that level against Alcaraz. I mean, there are a couple of double faults, 4 in total. That's not the end of the world over 3 sets, but I think the issue and I think the concern was that he served 2 inconsecutive points, put himself in trouble. For him, first serve percentage of 66% in that match, 76% of first serve points won, second serve points won 54%, which is pretty good. So yeah, not a lot to say more on that, to be fair, apart from, I guess it can happen. It can happen. But yeah, Nadal barely survived. How will he go? I don't know against Alcaraz. I actually had both these guys making the quarters, but then Alcaraz winning. And I'll make a case of both players, but I genuinely find it quite hard to see how he doesn't win this. I just think Nadal is almost right for the taking in this type of form, and being rusty as he is. But who knows? He might old man him as he has in the past. But yeah, in terms of tactically, I think Alcaraz has to utilize the into-out forehand, and exactly like how Goffin did, take it on the rise, take it early, use the angle, really drag Nadal out onto the forehand side. You've got to be really careful. You've got to be accurate and pinpoint on it, because if you don't hit it clean enough at enough of an angle, it just sets up a very easy shot for Nadal to unleash, which is that kind of lasso forehand cross court down the line, and then you're in trouble. So Alcaraz needs to utilize that, needs to hit his spots, I think, on the into out forehand, and then make as many forehands as possible. So he needs to serve well. If he hits his spots, Nadal, we saw against Goffin, he ended up hitting some shorter returns. That means a lot more forehands for Alcaraz, and that also then means, putting away those balls as well, or coming to the net and finishing off with a volley for the most part. I think the biggest, concern for Alcaraz and his team is the amount of breakpoint opportunities he gives away, and I think how many points he potentially loses on serve. Now, I think by hitting his spots against Nadal, he'll definitely have a better chance. I think he needs to almost potentially cut out that big kick serve on the ad side, which, look, I don't mind as a second serve, but as a first serve against Nadal into the forehand is just not the right play. So I think he needs to kind of look into that, Alcaraz, as well, and then come to the net when he can as well. Shorten the points. Don't let Nadal. Look, and let's be honest. I mean, if they hit from the back of the court, the one who makes the first mistake most likely will be Alcaraz, unless it's a forced error. And Alcaraz is hitting too big for Nadal. Nadal's on the back foot. So yeah, I think he needs to be innovative, Alcaraz, and as I said, needs to utilize the into forehand, needs to serve and hit spots, and then I would like to see him come to the net. He does serve and volley at times, and also then hits an approach shot, comes to the net, and I think that is the intelligent play against Nadal. He also needs to utilize a drop shot. He's got a fantastic drop shot, Alcaraz. Yes, Nadal is super fit, but Alcaraz really does utilize it incredibly well, as is Nadal, and I think that will be a potential battle as well, the battle of the drop shots, especially if the conditions are as timid, I think, as we're hopefully expecting. So yeah, those are the big kind of pluses for me. Well, big tactical points that I would make for Alcaraz, and I don't think it's necessarily a tactic to then target the Nadal backhand, because I don't think it's a weakness at all anymore. I think actually it's potentially at times more reliable than the forehand, but just maybe not as hurtful. But yeah, I think for Alcaraz needs to mix it up, needs to really get Nadal moving around in uncomfortable positions, especially dragged out wide. And that might mean hitting, like Goffin did a lot of serves out wide into the deep position of where Nadal is, and make him really run around. And that will take its toll eventually, in terms of fitness later down the stretch in a match, especially if it's going to end up going to 3 sets. So yeah, that's kind of my look at it from the Alcaraz point of view. For Nadal, needs to make a lot of first serves, I think, because the second serve is looking, okay. It's not looking amazing. A lot of kick on that second serve, but a lot of the times just down the middle of the box. I think Nadal needs to utilize, especially that flat serve out wide on the due side. Yes, it's potentially into the Carlos Alcaraz forehand, but if he hits it flat enough, it will just kick off. He'll get 3 points from it. He'll get on returns. He'll get aces from it, and then also go down the tee as well. Be brave on. On the ad side as well. Go down the tee to the forehand. If he hits his spots there, it's a fantastic serve. No one's getting onto it, or they're framing it, or they're getting it back, but it's a short return. So I think he just needs to mix up his serve placements against Alcaraz, find what kind of suits him, what he's having more success with, and then I think adjust there. He needs to be obviously aware of the Alcaraz drop shot, and then also for me though, Nadal just needs to hammer away at the backhand, which again for Alcaraz not much of a weakness. But I think we'll see Nadal obviously whipping that forehand cross court. And then for Alcaraz needs to step in. Anything short from Nadal, step in, put him on the back foot. And we saw Goffin do that, and he had a lot of success. For Nadal, I think he needs to get Alcaraz defending. If he can dictate in the points, especially with the forehand, and get Alcaraz running a lot, get him kind of defending in uncomfortable positions, in positions where he's not used to having to defend, then it'll definitely be a very, very big learning curve for him, and a good one nonetheless as well. So yeah, very intriguing for sure, and I'm very much looking forward to it. But in terms of prediction, I'm going to go Alcaraz in 3 sets, just because that's what I put my bracket, and I'll stick with it. I think Alcaraz definitely has the better form coming into this as well, and obviously he's been playing in Barcelona before this, the champion there. It's going to be a really, really tight match, I feel. I think Alcaraz, yes, he's Spanish, and a lot of people say, oh, he's going to be the next king on clay at Roland Garros. His favorite surface isn't actually clay, and I don't think his game is as suited potentially to the clay, but it's good enough that I think he should have a pretty decent chance. I think Alcaraz is one needs to return well. For the most part, he does return well, but anything short, Nadal pounces on that 1+ shot and puts it away with a forehand. That is the that's just the bread and butter really um, of it. So yeah, very interesting. But yeah, Nadal in the end, I think it's going to be really tough for him. To be fair, I think he might get run ragged at times by Alcaraz. I don't think he'll be able to keep up with the power at times, just because, yeah, just because I think he's still a little bit rusty, and I think his timing is a little bit off, is just a little bit, just a little bit. But yeah, for Nadal as well, come to the net at times as well, and he can. I think he needs to mix it up. Can't just stick with Alcaraz at the back, and then eventually, if there's a shorter ball, Alcaraz will pounce on it. That's the type of player he is. So yeah, very very interesting matchup. It's the world number 4 versus the world number 9 in the world. It's 2 Spaniards. It's Rafa Nadal versus Carlos Alcaraz. I cannot wait for this. Let me know your prediction in the comments, and also let me know your thoughts on the tactics. Before we wrap up, please remember to hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't done so already, and do also follow us. Leave a rating or review as well on any of the podcast platforms as well. Thank you very much. Really does help us out, and we'll see you on the next video. Thank you very much.